Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, so we're gonna get right into the video. So this is gonna be part 4 of the story time He Was Crazy, My Abusive Ex story. I left off in part 3 when I was saying that Jason had gotten into an argument with Erica's P. So I don't know why they were arguing or what they were arguing about. I don't even know how they even exchanged numbers to argue on the phone, because like they were texting and arguing, they were like calling each other on the phone arguing. Like I don't even know what was going on. All I know is that I was sitting on the bed watching this argument take place. So it started off with them arguing like through text messages. And then somehow, I don't remember how, but somehow they ended up on the phone. I don't know if Jason called her P or if her P called Jason. I don't know. But they're on the phone arguing, and it's like they're arguing like a couple, if that makes sense. So they're arguing like a couple. Like for example, so Jason would say something crazy, I don't know, like he would say something crazy wild out of his mouth, and then her P would hang up the phone as he's in like mid sentence, and then Jason would call back, then they would get on the phone, argue again. Like it was literally the same consistent routine basically. He was like, "Oh, you're mad because you're 304," but he didn't say 304. He said you're B. He was like, "Oh, you're mad because your 304 chose up and she trying to be over here and she want me to be her P and blah blah sat in the third, right?" So her P hangs up the phone. And I only know that he hangs up the phone because Jason gets mad. He was like, "Oh, I know this motherfucker didn't just hang up on me. I know he didn't just hang up on me." And then he calls right back. He calls right back, and then I guess her P didn't answer the phone the first time he called, so then he called back again, and then he picked up the phone, and now they still arguing back and forth. And I guess because he didn't have the phone on speaker, like he just had the phone up to his ear. So I guess her P had made some sort of comment because Jason was basically clowning him for their whole weird situationship, whatever they got going on, because I said before that her P, like he was indeed her P, but he was also like they were also messing around with each other. So Jason was pretty much clowning him for that. Like he was clowning him for that, saying like talking about how she, I don't know what the exact terminology is. Jason said that to her P, and for some reason that set him off. Like, you know, that made him really mad. And now he starts talking about Erica. He was like, "Oh, that would never be my girl. Like, I would never F with her like that." Like, like, basically talking about her in a bad way, you know, talking about, "Oh, she's just my cum bucket. I would never put, what do you say? He said something like, I would never put a wig on a pig, or called her a pig in a wig." I don't know, child. But Jason was fixated on that line. Like for some reason, her P calling her a pig in a wig was like to him, like right, and he kept saying that over and over again. He was like, "Oh," like because even after he got the phone, he was like, "Oh, he called her a pig in a wig, ha ha ha, pig in a wig." Like he just kept saying that over and over again. Like, and I'm just like, because I don't know, like I don't really care, to be honest, but for some reason Jason was fixated on that entire line. He kept repeating that, kept saying it over and over again. Like, child, it was a whole thing. So eventually, you know, the argument, whatever, dies down. They're not texting each other arguing anymore. They're not on the phone arguing anymore, right? So some time goes by. Some time goes by, and I guess Erica ends up reaching out to Jason for whatever reason, I don't know, but she ends up reaching out to him, and they're talking about the whole argument that happened. And, and of course, Jason had to relay the message that he called her a pig in a wig. He was like, yeah, and that nigga called you a pig in a wig, and he said you look like this, and you're just his cum bucket, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what Erica was saying because, like I said, he didn't have the phone on speaker. Like, he just had it up to his ear, so I could only hear his end. But I'm just like, all right, something's wrong with this dude. Like, and from the time that I left the hotel room that I was staying with Erica, from the time that I left there to up at this point with me being in Jason's home, after she called Jason or they got in contact with each other and now they're discussing this argument that happened, I guess Jason thought that Erica was gonna take his side in the argument. Why, I don't know, but when she didn't, he felt some type of way. And now in his mind he wants to, I don't want to say do stuff to get back at her, but he kind of wanted to like do like little sneak disses or like subliminal posts and stuff like that, to be petty because he felt some type of way that she didn't take his side in the argument, right? Maybe he felt some type of way that the argument even happened because from my thing, I think that the only way that her P could have even gotten Jason's number is if either she gave it to him or if he went through her phone to find it, right? So I don't know, maybe he felt like she was partly responsible for the argument that happened or she didn't take his side. I have no clue. So, boom, time is going on. Time is going on, and we're still arguing, like, but it's still like the same dumb arguments. Like, he's still getting mad about my son waking up in the middle of the night. So, and because he was waking up in the middle of the night crying, I started to take him into the kids' room, like I said in part 3, right? But like I also said in part 3, like, he started to like make that a big deal because in his mind he thinks that I'm taking him in the other room so that I can get on my phone and talk to niggas. Another thing that he was fixated on, right? And it's like we would argue about that because I'm tired of having to keep proving that I'm not cheating, I'm not talking to other guys, like I'm not doing none of that. You feel me? And it's like if you okay, I gave him the benefit of the doubt the first time he said something because it's like, all right, you don't really know me like that. I don't really know you like that, right? And he had expressed to me before that he had dealt with his ex that he's with for like a few years. He had dealt with her cheating and stuff like that. So first time that he mentioned it, cool, whatever. You don't know me, I don't know you. This is what has gone on in your previous history. So I get it, but let me let you know that that's not what this is. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what's going on here, right? So after the first time, it's like, okay, why do you keep bringing this up? Why is this consistently an issue? Like, I'm not getting it, right? And I could see if I was like lying or something like that. But if I'm not lying to you and you're just not believing it because of your insecurities, it's no longer a me problem. Like, this is an issue that you have within yourself. You have some sort of insecurities or trauma from your past relationships that you need to deal with, that you need to heal, that you need to fix. Like, it has nothing to do with me. It's completely beyond my reach, out of my hands at this point, right? So, there was a time where he had just got out the shower and he was coming back into our room for him to get dressed and like put his clothes on. Well, after he put his clothes on, he went to go grab a pair of socks. So he walks over to the dresser and he opens the top drawer on the right side, which had my things in it. And when he looked and seen that it was my things, he was like, "Oh, my bad. Like, I thought this was mine. Like, I forgot that it was yours for a second, right?" And of course, when he said it, I rolled my eyes and I'm like, "No, you didn't. Like, I've been living here for how long now? And there's no way that you could have forgotten at this point, that you had given that side of the dresser to me." I had hot dog buns, right? Not actually hot dog buns that you eat, but use your imagination here, people. I had hot dog buns from when I was a 304 inside of the top dresser. when me and him did sexual things to each other, we did not use hot dog buns, right? So even when I first moved my things into that dresser, he had expressed that he felt some type of way that I still had them, even though me and him didn't use them. And I had explained to him that old dude that I fell out with had given them to me, and I just never like threw them away, because it was a big box with hot dog buns, it was a small box, and then it was like the gold pack of hot dog buns that were not inside of a box. They were just like, they're all together, like that's just how it was, basically. And I had them all inside of the top drawer. So as he's like putting the drawer back, because he's like, oh my bad, like I forgot that this was your drawer now, and he goes to close the drawer, he looks down at the hot dog buns and pulls the drawer back out. And he takes the gold pack, because those are the only ones that were not inside a box. He takes them and he starts counting them, right? He was like, oh, I think one is missing, because let's just say, for the sake of this video, because I don't even know how many were in there, but let's just say for the sake of this video, he was like, oh, I thought that you had 9 in here and I only count 8. And when he said that, I was like, what? Because now I'm confused. So I'm like, what? And he was like, I thought you had 9 and there's only 8. And then he goes through and he starts counting them out loud. And sure enough, he got to the number 8. He was like, yeah, like there's only 8 in here. So I'm like, well, I don't know what you want me to say, because I didn't even know how many were in there, but I didn't take any out, like I didn't use them, like they've been sitting in there the whole time, like they have been when I first put my things in that drawer. And then he was like, are you sure? Because you could have used it when your brother was here. And I'm like, what? So you really think that I had invited some random nigga over here and then lied to you about him being my brother? He was like, oh, well, I don't put nothing past you. Like, I don't know what you would do. That probably is something that you did. And if you say that it ain't none missing the shit, y'all probably did shit without one. I mean, you do shit without one with me, so. And now I'm really looking at him sideways. And I'm like, that was actually my brother. So why would I use a hot dog bun? Like, it just was not clicking to me. It just was not making sense. Like, why? Like, and so many things were going through my mind. Like, why is this man so insecure? Why does he automatically think that I'm doing stuff? Like as far as cheating? Like, what is wrong with him? Right? So all these things are going through my mind. And this did not turn into an argument, but it is one of the many red flags at this point. Like, what are we on? Like, red flag number 9? Like, I don't know. Like, it added up to the 1,000,001 red flags that this man had. So, and oh yeah, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but so many things happened within the 2-week span, is that it's hard to pick a exact day of when everything happened, except for like the first day, the second day, and the third day. But after that, like, I pretty much just lost track of days where certain events happened. So I'm just naming the events that happened that led up to me leaving, right? So the next morning, we wake up, he's getting ready to go to work, right? So he's getting dressed, I'm in the kitchen cooking breakfast. And before he came out to eat breakfast, I had already decided that for the day I was going to get the kids' room straight, because I mentioned before how after my dad and my brother had brought like all my things up there, that I still had stuff in like the kids' room that I didn't put away yet, right? So I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna get everything situated. I'm gonna start like putting my kids' things away. I'm gonna start like putting my things away, just so that everything is more so organized, because I literally just sat our things inside the kids' room and left it there for like maybe like 1 to 2 days at that point. And since my daughter wasn't there, like nobody really went inside the kids' room. Like my son was with me the whole time. And then my son also had those walkers that you like sit kids in, and like they Like the one, like it's a walker for kids, like for or for babies when they're learning how to walk, but it's the one that you sit them in, like not the one where they have to like stand up and push, right? So my son had the one that like you can just sit him in. So my son was like trailing all through the house in that basically. So nobody ever really went inside the kids' room. But now that it's been sitting there for like what, like 2 days at this point, I'm like, yeah, we're not really doing anything. When he goes off to work, I don't really do nothing besides sit in the house. So I might as well go ahead and put it away, right? And then I also tell him, because eventually he ends up coming into the kitchen. So when he comes into the kitchen, he's asking me like what we're going to do today. I tell him that I'm going to do that. And then I also tell him that I want to do laundry, right? So I tell him I want to do laundry, and then he explains to me that in his like little condo building thing that they have laundry cards that you use for like the washer and the dryer, right? So he gave me the laundry card. Um he didn't tell me how much money was on the card, and at that point I didn't ask, but he did ask me. He was like, so are you just gonna wash like you and your son's clothes? And I was like, nah, I'm gonna do our clothes, and then I'm gonna also do your clothes, and then I also want to wash the sheets on our bed too. So he was like, all right, that's cool, like I don't mind. And then he showed me, like, well, he didn't show me, but he told me. He was like that the laundry room is all the way down at the very end of the hallway. Like it's smack dab in the middle, like you can't miss it. And he said that every floor has their own separate laundry room at the end of the hallway. So I'm like, all right, cool, like perfect for me, right? So nothing really too much happens. We eat breakfast. He leaves for work, right? So when he leaves for work, I get to work. And we're getting to the point where it's like we're arguing almost every day now. We're arguing almost every day about the same things that we have been arguing about, right? As far as like I said, I'm not gonna repeat it because I done said it so many times, but we're literally arguing every single day. But now I don't want to say, how do I say this? But now it's like, instead of arguing back with him, I'm just letting him say what he has to say, right? So it's not exactly an argument. Like, he would get mad about something, he would express that he was mad, and usually I would say something back, and then it would turn into an argument, and now both of us are saying things back to each other. But at this point, it got to the point where I'm not saying anything, right? So it's like he's just talking, and I'm letting him talk, and I'm not saying anything back. Because I mean, who are you going to argue with, yourself? Like, if I'm not engaging in this argument, you're clearly going to be talking to yourself, right? And then I was just like, you know what? He gets up for work at like 7:30. As soon as he's done, he's going to go straight to work, right? So I only have to listen to his mouth for like, what, 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, and then he's gone. And then I won't have to deal with him again until he comes back, right? That's what I'm thinking. So I started doing that for like one day. And the night he comes home from work, we eat dinner, everything's cool. So we get inside the bed, and we do what we do. And yeah, we go to sleep. So I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning, right? I wake up because my stomach hurts so bad. Like, I need to go boo boo, right? And as soon as I woke up and my stomach was hurting like that, I knew exactly what it was. I knew I had to go boo boo, right? So so I'm looking at the time on my phone, and I'm like, oh shit, it's 4:30. My son's gonna wake up in like 30 minutes, but it shouldn't take me that long. Like, I should be fine, right? So I get up out the bed and I go into the bathroom, right? But because it's quiet, like dead quiet, I'm talking about no TV is on, like all the lights are off, like it's dead quiet in there. I'm gonna turn on the faucet in the bathroom, and no water's coming out. So then I go to turn on the faucet in like the tub. No water's coming out. I'm like, what the fuck? But my stomach was hurting so bad that I could not hold it. I had to go right then and there. So that's what I did, right? So so I get up, wipe myself, and now I'm about to flush the toilet, right? So I go to flush the toilet, and it's not flushing. And now I'm really thinking, like, okay, what's going on? So then I'm like, wait a minute, there's a bucket underneath the bathroom sink. I take the bucket from out of the bathroom sink. I go into the kitchen. See, in my mind, I'm thinking that I can run water from like the faucet that in the kitchen, like put the bucket under there, run the water in there, and then go into the bathroom, dump the water in the toilet, and then the toilet will, flush itself. That's what I'm thinking. Go into the kitchen, I turn on the faucet. No water is coming out. And now I'm stuck. I'm like, okay, well, at this point, I have no choice but to wake him up. I know that he does not like getting woken up out of his sleep, especially when he has to go to work the next day. But yeah, I'm gonna need you to get up, right? So I go in the room and I think that he's still asleep, but obviously he's awake because I was like, hey. And he said, what? So obviously he was awake, like he was already awake. And I tell him, I'm like, hey, so I went in the bathroom and I used it and I tried to flush it, but it wouldn't flush. Like I even turned on the faucet, like the sink, no water came out. I even went to the kitchen, no water would come out. I even tried to turn on the faucet in the tub and no water was coming out. Oh, he was like, oh, I think they're doing construction down the street. They probably turned the water off and it'll just be back on like, later on in the morning. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then I get in the bed and I don't say nothing else. Like I get in the bed. And then he takes the cup because he was, how do I explain it? Like he was sleeping with like the blanket like all the way over his head. So then he pulls the blanket down. He was like, oh, so what, you took a dump in the toilet and couldn't flush it? And I was like, yeah, because the toilet wouldn't flush because there's no water and apparently they're doing construction, right? We just went over this, sir. So he was like, so he gets out the bed. He gets out the bed and he goes over to the window and he's like looking through the blinds and he was like, okay, yeah. He's like, okay, yeah, they're doing construction down the street. Like the water will probably be back on later. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then he gets back in the bed and I assume he's laying down to go to sleep, right? But now I'm up and then my son's about to wake up in a few minutes. So, so I get on my phone, like, and I feel like I should not, like, me being a grown woman, I should not have to explain why I want to get on my phone. There should not, like, it shouldn't be a reason as to why I want to get on my phone. Like it's my phone. I'm finna get on it. Period. Right? So I grab my phone, start scrolling through Instagram, and of course he has a problem with this. So now we weren't really arguing. Like I said, he's saying how he felt about it, and I'm listening, but clearly he took it as me ignoring him. Right? So then my son wakes up. He starts crying. He wakes up. I pick him up. I change him. I feed him. And so I changed my son first, and then I was making him a bottle. So as I'm making him a bottle, he picks my son up and he's holding him, right? So he's holding him, and he's talking to my son in baby talk, and he's like, "Oh, I can't get any sleep because you always want to wake up crying, and because your mom always want to get on the phone and talk to her other niggas." And I was annoyed that he said that, but I didn't say anything back because I'm like, if I say something back, for sure, it's gonna cause an argument. So I was annoyed that he said that, but like I didn't say anything because I knew that for sure if I said something back, then it was gonna cause an argument, right? So, so boom. So I ended up not taking my son back into the room like how I usually would do when he wakes up because he wasn't making any noise. I was feeding him. Like in my mind, I was like, Jason's gonna go back to sleep. I'm gonna let him go back to sleep while I feed my son, and then depending on what my son does, because it was very much still dark outside. So I'm like, if my son decides to go back to sleep, then we'll stay in here. But if he's up, like he's gonna be up for a few more hours, then yeah, I'll probably just go ahead and take him into the kids' room, right? So, and I don't know why I keep saying right after everything. I guess is my catchphrase. I don't know. Anyway, back to the story, right? So that morning, a few hours later, Jason wakes up to get ready, right? So my son ended up going back to sleep. So we stayed inside of Jason's room, right? I did not push him inside the kids' room like I usually would. So Jason gets up and he's about to start getting ready for work. Once again, I'm scrolling through my phone. Oh, and I also, like, once my son went to sleep, I also went back to sleep. So now I'm up again and I'm like scrolling through my phone. So once again, of course, Jason has a problem with that, right? So he has an issue with that. Um, he's trying to connect. Well, not even trying to connect because he is connecting. Like he's connecting me being on my phone all the time to me being on my phone talking to niggas, me cheating, and then he's linking that to the missing hot dog bun. Like all of this stuff is like, and to be honest with you, all of this is delusions that this man has made up in his mind. None of these things that he thinks are happening is actually happening, right? In his mind, he thinks that I'm on my phone all the time because I'm talking to niggas. He thinks there's a missing hot dog bun. He thinks that I'm cheating, that I'm this, I'm that. And because he's so screwed up in the mind that if he thinks it, then it just has to be reality because there's no way that he could be imagining these things to him, right? So whenever we would get into an argument or a heated discussion about it, it didn't matter what I said. He would always think that he was right. It doesn't matter if I'm like, oh, I'm not cheating. Oh, I'm not talking to niggas on my phone. If he thinks that I am, then according to him, that's the verdict. He solved the case. I'm guilty, right? So this morning in particular, he, like I said, he gets up, um, he sees me on my phone. Of course, he has something to say, right? So now he's going off at the mouth. I'm doing the same thing that I said I was going to do before. I'm just letting him talk. I'm not saying anything back. I'm looking at the time. I'm like, all right, he should be leaving out of here in about a good 30 minutes. Then I won't have to hear his mouth. So apparently he felt some type of way about that. I don't know if he wanted an argument or if he felt like I was ignoring him or whatever the case may be, right? But his voice starts to get louder. As his voice gets louder, it wakes up my son, so now he's crying. So I pick up my son and I'm like holding him, trying to console him, trying to get him to stop crying. I don't know how that set Jason off, but it did. And he started to feel some type of way. He grabs a pillow on the bed and he throws the pillow at me. But when he throws the pillow at me, he misses and hits my son in the face. So now he's crying. So now my son is like crying even more, right? And now you effed up, right? Because if it was just me, then it would have been a problem, sure. But now that you threw the pillow and hit my son, yeah, it is what it is at this point, and whatever happens beyond this point, you brought that on yourself. So I get up. I get up and I put my son inside of the bassinet, right? Mind you, my son is still crying at this point, but I need to handle this. You feel me? So I put my son inside the bassinet. He's still crying. And I have been quiet this entire time. And now I'm the one that's going off. I'm like, why now? So I'm like, why the F would you do that? Like, you always think that I'm talking to niggas on my phone. Like, you're so effing insecure. Like, you got internal issues that you need to effing deal with. So now we're going at it, right? Because as I'm saying this, he's saying stuff back to me too. So my son, so I don't know what happened, but it's like I could still hear my son crying, obviously. So I turn around, like me and Jason, we're like this, like we're face to face at this point, but I hear my son still crying. So I turn around to go pick up my son out the bassinet. So I turn around and I pick him up, and now I'm holding him. So once I have him in my arms, Jason decides that he wants to punch me in my face, right? So he punches me in my face, and I stumble. So the bed is right here and the bassinet is right here, right? And there's like a little space in the middle. So I pick up my son in that little space, and I go to turn around to lay him on the bed. But as I'm turning around, Jason punches me in my face. So then I stumble in that little spot, and then I kind of put my son on the bed, right? At that point, yeah, you put your hands on me. Now we about to fight. Like, we really about to fight. And because I knew that's exactly what was about to happen, I removed my son from the bed. I put him back in his bassinet. The whole entire time this is going on, my son is still crying. So I turn around and I take off. Like, I start hitting him and he starts hitting me, right? So now we're full-fledged fighting each other, right? And it gets to the point where he pushes me on the bed, but not inside of that little space that I was talking about. Like, because when I hit him, he was standing in front of the bed, at the foot of the bed. So now we're by the foot of the bed, pretty much. So there comes a point where he pushes me on the bed. He has one hand around my throat, and he's like on top of me, right? And I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but like he was yelling something. But in my mind, it's like, you know what they say in psychology, that when you go through certain situations, your brain releases a chemical that gives off the fight or flight response. And then you get like, I think it's like adrenaline, and then adrenaline starts to run through your body. Like, that's what it was. Like, I was entering into that fight or flight response. There was adrenaline running through my body. So it's like, the best way I can explain it is that I was fully aware of everything that was taking place. Obviously, if I can like recant this, like, tell what happened. But I was not in that space. Like, I was there, but I wasn't there, if that makes sense. I don't know. It was hard to explain. Anyway, once that happened, something in me like switched. Something in me changed. And I took the heel of my foot actually, and I put it in the middle of his chest, and I just started kicking him as hard as I could. And like, I don't know what happened, but I just started kicking him like in the middle of his chest as hard as I could. And I didn't stop until he let me go. So eventually he ended up letting me go. And then he let me go. He got off of me and he walked towards the what do you call it? The doorway. So once he let me go, I turned over and then I looked up and I seen him walking towards the door. But in my mind, I'm like, nah, nigga, we not done. Like, where do you think you're going? So I get up. So I get up off the bed and I run over to him. And now his back is like facing me because, like I said, he's walking to the door. So I grab him by the back of his shirt and I just start punching him in his face. Like, grab him by the back of his shirt with one hand, start punching him in his face with the other hand. Like, and I just kept going. Like, I wasn't stopping. I was not finna stop. Like, because now you really took it there, right? When it didn't even have to go there to begin with. So I can hear him. He's like, all right, damn, stop. Because at that point, he wasn't hitting me back. So I stopped and he walked out the room and then walked into the bathroom and shut the door. While he's doing that, it's like everything started to like come back to reality now. My brain is no longer releasing that fight or flight, that adrenaline. It's like now everything is going back down to like the normal levels, right? So my son is still crying. I can hear him now because before, like, and that's what I meant to say. Like, he was when he was on top of me, choking me, and he was saying whatever he was saying. It's like I couldn't hear anything. It's like everything became silent. My son was no longer crying. I could see his lips moving, but I couldn't hear anything coming out. I don't know. Maybe it was the chemicals in my brain at that time. I don't know. So I grabbed the bassinet because my son is still in the bassinet. So I grabbed the bassinet and I pushed the bassinet into the kids' room. And I shut the door behind me and I lock it. And then at that point, that's when I take my son out of the bassinet and, I start consoling him, start trying to, calm him down and stuff like that, right? So then a few minutes go by, like maybe 5 minutes. All I know is by then my son had stopped crying. He's completely fine. But then Jason comes to the door and he knocks on the door, right? He knocks on the door and of course he starts apologizing, saying how sorry he is. And I'm like, sorry, nigga, you just put your hands on me. And he was like, oh, you black my eye though. You black my eye though. And I'm like, if you want to put your hands on me, this would have never happened. Like, what are you talking about? You feel me? So he walks away from the door. He comes back some time later, knocks on the door again. And at this point, I've come to the conclusion that he's obviously going to be late for work. Like, there's no way around it. He's going to be late for work. He's not getting no breakfast unless he stops on the way to get breakfast because I'm not cooking this nigga nothing. You feel me? So he comes back to the door. He's knocking on the door again, apologizing, saying how much he loves me, saying how he didn't mean for none of that to happen, this, that, and the third, right? So I'm like, this nigga. I open the door, he comes in, he's telling me, that he's sorry about this and he's sorry about that. And he started asking me, was I gonna leave? Because he knew that he had to leave for work. He starts asking me if I'm gonna leave because in his mind, he thinks that once he goes to take off for work, then I'm gonna pack up my things and I'm gonna leave, right? And once he asked me if I was gonna leave, I was like, this is exactly what I said. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to find a way to take all my stuff first. Like, and I said it just like that. He was like, don't leave. I don't want you to leave. And now I feel like, he was trying to be manipulative, right? Because it's like, you're telling me you don't want me to leave. You're telling me you love me. You're sorry, despite what just went down a few minutes ago, right? So, so he starts to tell me, like, oh, if you're gonna leave, like, I want to know, because I guess because of the stuff that I said before, his family has some stuff inside of his house. So in his mind, he thought that if I was gonna leave and I left once he left for work, then I was either gonna take that stuff, whatever it was, or I was going to take his things. Like, I was gonna take my stuff and his stuff, right? And that was not the case. Like, if I was going to leave at that point, then I was just going to take me and my kids' things. Like, I had no reason to take his stuff. And this is why I say that this man has some sort of like trauma. He has some sort of issues going on in his mind. Like, because why would you think that I would take my things and take your things? Like, make it make sense, right? Because why would that even cross his mind, for real? So he ends up leaving for work. And after he left for work, it's like, let me put it like this. So anything that had happened up until that point, as far as like the arguing, the accusing me of cheating, even the whole being weird with the whole camera situation, up until that point, all of those things were forgivable. They were very much forgivable. And they didn't warrant me leaving. Or me breaking off the relationship or anything like that. But the moment that he put his hands on me, the relationship was over and I had to leave. Period. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There was no, oh, let me stay, maybe things will get better. There was no, oh, that was the first time it happened. He's sorry. Maybe it won't happen again. No. It was the only thing that was running through my mind is I need to leave. How can I leave safely and take all of my things and take all of my kids' things? Period. Like, I knew I had to go. And that was it. I'm literally going over every single scenario in my mind, right? Because I knew I had to leave. I just knew. It was no longer a safe environment for me. And it darn sure was not in a safe environment for my son. And I forgot to mention, but within the first week that I had been there, Jason had been like pressing me to try to let him put his name on my son's birth certificate, right? And I just kept telling him no. But it just didn't make sense to me because why do you want like Jason had only known me for a week. You only know me for a week. We just got into a relationship. What makes you think I will let you put your name on my son's birth certificate? Like that whole situation together was just weird. It was just very weird to me, right? So now I'm like, yeah, nah, like we gotta go. Me and my son, we have to leave, right? So I end up falling asleep in the kids' room where I was like comforting my son and all of that. So we go to sleep. I wake up like 2 hours later to so many missed calls, missed text messages, missed FaceTime calls, all from Jason, right? And I read a couple of the messages, but some of them was just asking me like, "Are you okay? What are you doing? Did you leave?" Like all of this shit like that, right? So so I don't respond back to the messages, but I call him, right? So I call him back and I tell him that I was sleeping, right? And this is where everything got weirder. Like if I was not for sure that I had to leave before, after this, I knew. Like, oh my god, I knew it's time to get fucked ASAP. Immediately. Now. Right? So we're on the phone and we're talking, right? And I'm telling him, like, oh, I fell asleep, putting my son to sleep. Like, we're still here. We didn't leave. He tells me that he knows. And I'm like, well, how do you know? So he tells me that when I wasn't like answering his phone calls or texting him back, he said that he sent his mother over to the condo to see if I had left and to see if I took any of his things, and if not, then to remove whatever that, right? So he said that when his mother was there, she texted him and told him that I was sleeping. And he was like, yeah, she said she was telling me that you're very pretty and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me that your mother was in here watching me sleep? That's weird. That's very weird. When I told her what happened this morning, and I told her that when she got there, like, you might be gone, and and I told her, that and when I hit you, you hit me back. And she was like, dang, that might really be the girl for you. She didn't just let you put your hands on her. Like, she actually fought you back. And now I'm even more weirded out. Because not only is this nigga crazy, but his mother is crazy. Fucking bonkers. Your son tells you that he put his hands on a female, on a woman, and you're telling him, oh, she might be the one for you because she didn't just lay there and take it. What? What? What's in the water? What's wrong with these people? Child, anyway, at that moment, I was like, oh yeah, time to make my exit. Time to go. He was like, the same situation happened with um when I asked Erica how did she know him, she said that he used to date or deal with her homegirl, right? And I didn't know if I said this before, but she told me the homegirl's name. But for the sake of this, we're just gonna say homegirl, and she said the girl's name. So then he says back to me and him talking on the phone, he was like, yeah, because the same shit happened before when I was with my ex, homegirl. Like, we ended up getting into a fight and I had to like put my hands on her and she just laid on the bed and cried, but you didn't do that. Like, you actually blacked my shit. You feel me? So now the pieces are coming together. Like, I'm pretty sure that with Erica being friends with Homegirl and then Homegirl being his ex-girlfriend, I'm pretty sure Homegirl must have told Erica, like, oh yeah, this ninja put his hands on me, like, he did this and he did that. And that's probably why ain't nobody heard from the girl in like 2 years and she just took off and left out of nowhere. That's probably why, right? But my whole thing is, that's why Erica was like, oh, I don't want to throw dirt on nobody's name. Like, you're going to have to see for yourself. Like, I'm pretty sure that's why she said that. Like, homegirl must have told Erica, like, oh, this ninja be putting his hands on women. He do this and he do that. And then Erica was like, oh, well, in her mind, she was thinking, I know homegirl told me this about this ninja, but I don't know it for myself. So now I'm just going to tell Fendi that she going to have to see it for herself. Type thing, right? But then on the other hand, we just got to think about what type of person Erica is, right? Because if homegirl was your friend and she told you that this ninja was beating on her, putting his hands on her, or whatever she told you, why would you then go and mess with him? Because he did say that him and Erica had messed around a couple of times. So, what? That's not a friend. That's not a friend at all. But moving on. So yeah, like I said, at that point I knew that, yeah, I definitely gotta go. I gotta start thinking about my exit plan, figuring out how I'm gonna get out of here, right? So that night Jason comes home from work and he brought me flowers. He brought me orange roses. And he also brought like steak and stuff like that to cook for dinner. He cooked us dinner. He lit some candles. He gave me my flowers. So as we're sitting down at the dinner table and we're eating dinner, I'm not saying anything because I don't have anything to say. And it's very quiet. Neither of us are speaking. And then I decide to break the silence. And I tell Jason, I'm like, this doesn't make up for what you did, right? Like, this don't excuse what happened this morning. And Jason was like, I know, but I told you that I'm sorry and it'll never happen again. And, you just made me mad. If you don't make me mad, then I won't have to put my hands on you. And I stared at him. Because at that moment, I knew this motherfucker's crazy. He's crazy. Any man that puts his hands on you, number one, is crazy. But it's even more crazier for him to be explaining himself and to say, well, you did this, so this is why it happened. If you don't do that, then I won't have to do that. It won't happen again. Nah. Somebody bring out Ashton Kutcher, because clearly I'm being punked here. This cannot be life. This cannot be for real. Oh, that night we go to get into bed. I put my son to sleep. Oh, and mind you, let me say this. Like, Jason is being super nice. He's being super nice. He's being very helpful, offering to help with my son, to like feed him. Anyway, just like some music playing outside. Anyway, I'm like, yeah, this motherfucker's crazy. Like, there's no way around it. As we get into bed, he comes and he brings my flowers, because I left them in the kitchen. So he brings my flowers and puts them like on the nightstand on my side of the bed. So afterwards, after my son goes to sleep, we get into bed and he wants to do sexual things to each other. And I say no. I tell him no. And when he asks why, I said, because all that happened this morning. Like, if we go and now I sleep with you, like, you gonna think that that's okay. You're gonna think that there's no consequences behind your actions. And it's not okay. Like, it's never okay. And he was like, I know that it's not okay, baby. I'm sorry. And I'm just like, the answer's still no. Like, I'm not doing it. Nah, I'm straight. Do you know that he did a complete 360? All that niceness that he had ever since he came home from work went away. And he was the same person he was that morning. He got so mad that he took my flowers and threw them in the trash. He took them, dumped them bitches right in the garbage. I was like, yeah. I made the right decision by saying no, because look how quickly he just switched personalities. Fuck no. Fuck no. Get me out of here. Anyway. Oh yeah, and before I continue with the story, this video is going to be a bit longer than the rest of them that I have been posting, because I want to get finished with this story. So we go to sleep that night. So the next morning I wake up, I get my son out of bed, we go in the kitchen to eat breakfast, right? I'm not cooking breakfast, but I'm feeding my son breakfast, if that makes sense. And Jason, at this point, I think that Jason is still in bed sleeping. So I called my dad, right? I called my dad and I didn't really explain to him what happened. I just said that me living there was no longer working out and I needed to come home. But I wanted my dad to like come up there and like bring all of my things too, so that I could just go home in one trip. I wouldn't have to leave and go home and then come back, get my things. Like, I just didn't want to do all of that. He told me that he had to work that day, but he was off work the next day. And then him and my brother would come back up there and they would get my things. Once I just said that it just wasn't working out, like, he didn't ask me to go into detail. Like, he didn't do any of that. He was just like, all right, well, I have to work today, but I'm off tomorrow. Tomorrow, me and your brother will come up there and we'll, come get your stuff. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I don't know if Jason heard me on the phone or what. Like, I don't know what happened. But shortly after I get off the phone, Jason comes. He comes walking into the kitchen. Well, right now we're in the dining room part because I'm like sitting at the table feeding my son. But like, he comes walking in there and he's like, doing his like button down for work. And I already had it in my mind that I wasn't going to say anything to him because I didn't have anything to say. And he looked at me and he was like, so you ready? I said, and I looked at him and I said, ready for what? And he was like, ready to leave. And I'm like, I'm not leaving right now. And he looks at me and he was like, yes, you are. Like, you finna get out because I don't want you in here when I'm not here. So, like, yeah, you gotta go. I'm about to leave for work and you need to leave too. And I was like, well, I just got off the phone with my dad and he said that he can't come up here to get my things until tomorrow. So either you wait until tomorrow for me to leave, or you rent me a U-Haul truck so I can take all my things and leave, because I'm not leaving the rest of my things in here when I'm not here. And then I turned back around and continued to feed my son. He stood there for a few minutes and then he walked off, right? So he walks off and I'm thinking that he's gonna keep getting ready for work, right? But then I hear the shower turn on, which didn't really make sense to me because why are you turning on the shower if you already have your work shirt on? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, that's fucking weird. Anyway, so a few minutes later, he comes back out. He comes back out into the kitchen and now he has his phone up to his ear, right? And he was like, all right, yeah, what you say? How far away are you? Okay, bet. And he hangs up the phone. And he was like, yeah, you won't leave, so I'm gonna have somebody come over here and make you leave. And then he turns around and walks away, right? But when he walks away, he goes into the bathroom and shuts the door. So now I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, well, he's finna go into the bathroom and shut the door. The shower's running. Maybe he's finna take off his clothes and get in the shower. I don't know. So that's what I'm thinking, right? So I'm like, all right, yeah, I don't know what he had planned, but obviously he does not mind getting other people involved, being that he had his mother in here, like in the house watching me while I was asleep, right? So obviously him having other people in the house does not bother him, right? That's what he wants, right? So now it's time for me to go. Like, I gotta do what I gotta do. Fuck it. So I get up and I tiptoe into the kids' room. I grab my bag, and in that bag, I throw some diapers, some wipes, and a bottle with some water in it, and Similac, right? But it was only one can because my plan was is that I was gonna just leave the house, like I was just gonna leave the condo until he left for work, and then I was gonna come back. And then at that point, I was most likely gonna like actually pack to leave, just come back the next day with my dad and my brother, right? So I get those things, I toss it in the bag. My son is still sitting at the dining room table, so I pick him up off the table, I pick him up from the table, and I tiptoe towards the door. At this point, Jason is still in the bathroom. So I walk over to the door and I'm standing there. And the way the front door was is that the front door, it always creaked and made noise every time someone opened it, right? And it was loud. So I'm like, the moment I open this door, he's gonna know. Like he's gonna know that the door is open immediately. I grab the door, I open it, and I run straight out. So I run out the door and I'm running down the hallway, and I was gonna go to the elevator, but I'm like, nah, the elevator's gonna take too long. Let me go down the stairs. So I open the door to the stairwell, and now I'm running down the stairs. I'm running down the stairs with my bag in my arm, my son holding my son on my hip. I'm running down the stairs. So he lived on the fifth floor. By the time I got to the second flight of stairs, I could hear the door to the stairwell opening, right? And I could hear Jason yelling at the top of the stairs. He was like, "Oh, you trying to run out on me? Nah, I'm really finna beat your A." Right? But he obviously didn't say that. He said the actual words, right? So now I took off faster and I'm running down the steps. I get to the third floor and I open the door and I run in, right? I was on some movie type shit. I thought that I could open the door to the third floor, go in there, and then somehow run to another staircase, but there was no other staircase. Like, as soon as you open the door and you walk onto the third floor, there's the elevator directly across from the stairwell, and then there's like other condos, right? But it was a dead end. Like everything linked around in a circle. So the only way out was either wait for the elevator or to go back down the stairwell. But I know Jason's in the stairwell. So I did the only thing I could do. Like, oh my God, I did the only thing I could do, I swear. So as I start to walk down the hallway and I see the stairwell open and I see Jason stick his head inside the third floor. So now I think this nigga finna come for me. So I start yelling. I start running down the hallway screaming, "Help! Somebody help me! He's trying to kill me! Somebody help me!" It's funny now, but it wasn't funny back then, obviously. So Jason gets spooked. He gets spooked and he goes back inside the stairwell, I guess, to go back up to the condo because at that point he had a towel wrapped around him. Once I got to the second flight of stairs and I could hear him yelling, I turned around to look and I could see him running down the stairs with the towel wrapped around him. So anyway, I don't know why that's so funny to me. But anyway, so after that, After I see that he goes back inside the stairwell, I run over to the elevator, right? And I'm pushing the down button. The button to go down, I'm like pushing that motherfucker and I keep pushing it. Eventually the elevator doors open and I walk inside the elevator. So when I walk inside the elevator, I go down to the lobby, right? I get down to the lobby, and when he got back in the stairwell, I don't know if he went up or if he went down. I don't know. So I'm standing there and I'm looking, right? And I ease out the elevator. I'm looking around. I don't see him, right? So then I walk out. I slowly walk out of the elevator. And then, like, the way the doors open to the entrance to go inside the building, it was like sliding glass doors, right? So when I walked into the doors, they immediately open. When those doors opened, I literally ran to my car. And then when I got there, I started looking for my car keys, and I could not find them. And then it dawned on me. Jason took my car keys. He must have went through my purse and took my car keys, right? But then I remembered my dad gave me the spare key, right? And Jason didn't know that. So I start digging around in my bag. I find the spare key. I'm like, bet. So I open my door. I put my son in his car seat and I immediately pull off. I pull off and I went to like the nearest store. I think there was like a dollar store or something like that around the corner. I pulled into the parking lot of the dollar store. And then that's when I got out and I like secured my son inside of his car seat. Because before I just placed him in there and pulled off. So I secured him inside of the car seat. And yeah, and now we're sitting in the parking lot of the dollar store. So of course Jason is blowing up my phone, wanting me to come back, telling me he's sorry. Same thing he did when he put his hands on me, right? Same exact thing, right? But I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. And then once I thought about it, I was like, if he took my car keys, I wonder, did he take the house keys? And so I'm looking in my purse, and sure enough, he took the car keys. He didn't take the $20 though. Like, he didn't take the money that I had in there, but he took the car key. He took the car keys and he took the house keys, right? So I'm like, dang. Now I don't have a choice. Like, I can't go back to the house when he leaves. Like, I only have two options. Either A, go back to the house now, or B, leave, go back home, and then come back the next day with my dad. So, that's what I decided to do. But he only had a couple of diapers. He only had one bottle and then a can of Similac with only that much formula left in it. Like, it wasn't even enough. And the only reason why I grabbed it like that is because I had planned on coming back. Like, if I knew that once I leave, then, like, we were going to be driving hours back home, then I would have got more. I would have packed an entire bag, right? But I just didn't have time for that. So, so one time when Jason called, because he called multiple times, but one of the times that he called, I actually ended up answering the phone, and he's telling me to come back, and I tell him that I'm done. I tell him that I'm over, whatever relationship we had is done, and that I was leaving. I needed to get my son's formula. Like, I was pretty much saying that I didn't care about my stuff, but I needed to get, like, my son's formula. I needed to get him another bottle and, like, some more Pampers, because I had only grabbed, like, 2 diapers and some wipes, right? She gave me an ultimatum, right? And he had already left for work, but if I stayed there until the time that he got off work, then he would let me in the house, right? But I'm not green. I'm not that green. Like, a big part of me was like, nah, that's not what's gonna happen, because a part of me felt like something bad, like something terrible was gonna happen if I were to go back into the house with him in there and not have, like, my dad or my brother with me. Like, something was gonna happen. Like, he was gonna do something to me, because clearly he was angry when I left, right? Clearly this man has 2 split personalities. So him apologizing don't mean nothing, right? Clearly. So I have to leave. I have to leave, and I just have to hope that the stuff that I do have is going to last until we get home. It is what it is. So I went to the nearest gas station, used the $20, filled up my tank, and drove home, right? So when I got back to my dad's house, like I didn't have any clothes. I didn't have any clothes. I didn't have anything. So my dad gave me some money to, get some clothes to wear. Not only get clothes, but like I had to get like toiletries, like soap, deodorant, lotion. I had to get all of that because all of my things were at Jason's house. So my dad gave me money to get my son some Pampers, to get him another can of formula, and to get like an outfit and like some soap and all of that. My dad offered to watch my son while I went to the store to go get everything, that we needed for the night. Yeah, for the night until the next day when we went back to Jason's to get the rest of my things. So as I'm walking out to my car, now I'm actually, taking a look at my car, because before, when I left Jason's, I just ran to my car, fumbled around for some keys, and got in that motherfucker and pulled off, right? But now I'm taking a look around my car, and I noticed that I assume it was Jason, because who else could it be? Jason must have came home and tried to slash my tires, because you can definitely tell that somebody tried to slash my tires, but whatever they were using wasn't going through the tire. But you could definitely see the marks on it. And I'm like, what the fuck? This nigga really tried to slash my tires? Like, that's crazy. Like, I'm glad I got away when I did. So that night, came back, stayed at my dad's house. Well, no, actually, I ended up going to one of my homeboys' house. And you know what's so crazy? Like, me and that homeboy, like, we're still friends right to this day. Like, that's my homie for real. So, I went and chilled with him for a little bit. And then, we like smoking and shit like that, taking shots. And I'm telling him everything that had happened and everything went down. And he was telling me, he was like, damn, like, I'm glad you got away when you did, because who knows what would have happened if you would have stayed there any longer. So I said, exactly. So I'm looking at it as a blessing. You feel me? And then I'm telling him that, me, my dad, and my brother, we finna go up there tomorrow to like, get the rest of my things. And he was like, oh, like, do you think that it's gonna be like some sort of altercation? And I'm like, nah, because at this point it was a weekday. So I'm like, nah, like, I think he finna be at work. So if anything, he just finna probably just leave the key out or something like that. Which actually later on, I forgot to mention, later on, Jason ended up texting me, and I told him that me, my dad, and my brother were going to come up there the next day to like grab my things. And he said that he had his mother and his sister come over, and they like packed up my things and they pushed it like by the door. He was going to be there because he didn't have to work that day for whatever reason, but he was like that he would leave the door unlocked so that we could just come in and all of my stuff be in the living room all packed up and shit. So I'm like, all right, cool, that makes it easier for us, right? Like at that point he knew that it was done and that I was leaving and that we were going to peacefully part ways, basically. So the next day comes, me, my dad, and my brother, we drive up there. And just like bringing the stuff in, we pretty much had a system. So pretty much what the system was is that my brother came upstairs with me, right? He came upstairs with me. I was putting stuff from the living room to outside. My brother was grabbing it from outside, taking it down the elevator, taking it to my dad. And then my dad was loading it onto his trailer, right? So that's pretty much the whole assembly line that we had going. So as we're doing that, Jason ends up texting me because like I said, he was there, but he was in his room as we were bringing the stuff out. So he texted me and asked me to come into his room. So I go in his room, he's pretty much apologizing. He was very remorseful at that point, and it did seem like he was remorseful any time other than that time. Now that it was pretty much set in stone, like, yeah, I'm finna leave. So he was pretty much remorseful, saying that he wished things would have turned out differently, and how he still loves me and all this stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, nah, nigga, I'm finna, like, I didn't say it like that though, but I was just like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I had to leave. And that's just what it all comes down to. And I told him, I was like, even with the arguing shit that happened, like, even if we could have gotten through the argument and, you could have healed or worked on yourself and you wouldn't have been accusing me of cheating. Even if that was just that. Those are things that we could have worked through and I would have stayed. But once you decided to put your hands on me, that's when I decided that it was time for me to leave. It is what it is. I pulled my pants down and bent over one last time for the road, right? So we did that. It was very, very quick because I got my peoples outside taking my stuff out and stuff like that. So it was real quick, like a couple seconds. And then that was it. You feel me? So after that, we took the ride back home. And I didn't really hear from Jason again. Like, other than he had reached out shortly after that, he had reached out to me on Instagram a couple of times. But I ended up blocking him. Um, so that was the last time that I hung around Erica, like when that whole situation happened. But that was not the end of me and Erica's friendship or whatever you want to call it. So when me and Erica became cool again, shortly after my dad passed away, that's when Jason somehow magically appeared back into the picture. And he hit me up on Instagram. It was trying to be all sweet, like, oh, when you coming back home, I miss you, baby, and all this stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, nah, like this isn't finna be round two. Like we're done. We're done. Like we will never be together ever again. You will never see me ever again unless it's through your phone screen. And yeah, and then shortly after that, I blocked him. So yeah, that's the end of this story time. Yeah, but more story times to come. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 4, and that is it for this series. Bye.